Philippine Coast Guard to acquire 20 units of 97-meter multi-role response vessels from Japan. As the Philippine Coast Guard faces full-on aggression from the China Coast Guard just recently in the West Philippine Sea, ideas sprouted about adding more white hulls into the fleet. The Maritime Law Enforcement Agency aspires to get larger ships such as its Teresa Magbanua-class MRRV flagships that help augment its smaller Parola-class MRRVs, both produced in Japan. Earlier last January 2023, the Philippine Coast Guard expressed its desire to gain an additional 5 more 97-meter multi-role response vessels, Teresa Magbanua-class MRRVs, from Japan, as this intention has discussed by the PCG Commandant before his audience of the delegates representing JICA or Japan International Cooperation Agency, led by its president Dr. Tanaka Akihiko. This is the latest in the series of modernization efforts surrounding the Philippine Coast Guard's fleet composition since the addition of the newly gained vessels like the said 97-meter multi-role vessels that currently came with two units, 10 1044-meter Parola-class vessels that also came from Japan as the Teresa Magbanua-class, and the BRP Gabriela Salang, OPV 8301, from France's OCEA. The PCG Commandant continued his explanation that by having additional Teresa Magbanua-class multi-role response vessels in the Philippine Coast Guard, the Maritime Law Enforcement Agency may now have more vessels at its disposal that can conduct maritime domain awareness operations through constant patrol of the country's territorial and EEZ waters, rescue operations, and other functions that promotes the country's economic growth and development through maritime security. Having additional Teresa Magbanua-class MRRVs in the Philippine Coast Guard, to take notes, may increase not only the presence of these ships in contested waters like the West Philippine Sea as it augments the smaller Parola-class MRRVs, but also has the capability of long endurance and loitering time in offshore waters, which is ideal in countering ongoing Chinese Coast Guard aggression in the area. In this topic, we will discuss the current incident that involves both the Chinese and Philippine Coast Guard vessels, the latter's desire to up-arming its existing white-hulled vessels, and pointing out further the capabilities of the Teresa Magbanua-class MRRVs, given with its design originating from Japan Coast Guard's Kunigami-class offshore patrol vessels. The Philippine Coast Guard played a very essential role in ensuring presence in the West Philippine Sea, as this is the lawful way of enforcing its absolute right of patrolling the area surrounding the Kalayaan Island Group following the 2016 Arbitral Tribunal ruling that provided the victory to the Philippines as it nullifies Chinese claims in the area. The larger Teresa Magbanua-class multi-role response vessels, MRRVs, have a significant advantage that came with its size, as it has the better endurance or the cruising range and time spent for the vessels to loiter the West Philippine Sea for a longer time period, as compared to the 44-metered Parola-class multi-role response vessels like the BRP Malapascua, MRRV 4403. Both the cruising and maximum speed between two multi-role response vessels of the Philippine Coast Guard are negligible to each other, as the 2,260 tonnage of the Teresa Magbanua-class MRRVs require a more powerful main engine, which is the 2x6,600 kilowatts diesel engines it has on board, comparing to the smaller and lesser-powered 2x2,580 kilowatts diesel engines sufficiently enough for the 321-tonnage Parola-class MRRVs. The larger dimensions that the Teresa Magbanua-class multi-role response vessels offer helps increase the prolonged presence of the Philippine Coast Guard in the West Philippine Sea, whereby the idea of adding more similarly sized vessels gives the agency increased capability to further implement its maritime domain awareness and security that the Philippine fisherfolk in the area needed as they faced harassment from China Coast Guard, along with ensuring deterrence from these white-hulled threats from the area without the escalation that usual naval, gray-hulled vessels brought. Also, the increased presence in the West Philippine Sea is a show of gesture and a message from the Philippines that it does not give up the features it considers as part of the country's exclusive economic zone and continental shelf. Particularly now that multiple countries ranging from the United States to others like Canada and Australia are showing support for the Philippine Coast Guards legally patrolling the waters in the area others considered as disputed.